Then I see that the frag grenade that exploded where I slept. So had I been asleep and not watching Tiger Woods play golf, then I wouldn't be talking to you right now. My whole area was blown up. So I was pretty pissed that I would have been dead and this person would have killed me. I mean, I wanted revenge. So I came back out of the tent. I walked over to where they had him apprehended, and I was going to do something. I don't know what it was, but he tried to kill me, so eye for an eye.
Good evening, listeners, brave navigators of the enigmatic and the concealed. Have you ever felt the pull of the unanswered, the allure of the mysteries that shroud our existence? For more than a decade, a unique comic publisher has dared to dive into these mysteries, unafraid of the secrets they might uncover. This audacious entity is Paranoid American. Welcome to the mystifying universe of the Paranoid American podcast.
Launched in the year 2012, Paranoid American has been on a mission to decipher the encrypted secrets of our world. From the unnerving enigma of MK-Ultra mind control to the clandestine assemblies of secret societies. From the awe-inspiring frontiers of forbidden technology to the arcane patterns of occult symbols in our very own pop culture. They have committed to unveiling the concealed realities that lie just beneath the surface. Join us as we navigate these intricate landscapes, decoding the hidden scripts of our society and challenging the accepted perceptions of reality.
Folks, I've got a big problem on my hands. There's a company called Paranoid American making all these funny memes and comics. Now, I'm a fair guy. I believe in free speech, as long as it doesn't cross the line. And if these AI-generated memes dare to make fun of me, they're crossing the line.
This is your expedition into the realm of the extraordinary, the secret, the shrouded. Come with us as we sift through the world's grand mysteries, question the standardized narratives, and brave the cryptic labyrinth of the concealed truth. So strap yourselves in, broaden your horizons, and steel yourselves for a voyage into the enigmatic heart of the Paranoid American podcast, where each story, every image, every revelation brings us one step closer to the elusive truth.
Welcome to another episode of Paranoid American Podcast. I'm coming in a little hot because we got a really interesting guest today. And let me do the proper little introduction. So we're talking to Bart E. Womack, who was a command sergeant major retired. And he served in the Army for over 29 years as a drill sergeant, a ranger instructor, a sergeant at the Guard of the Tomb with Unknown Soldier, 2 Bronze Stars, 1 for Valor, Legion of Merit, Combat Infantry, Tomb Guard ID, Army Ranger tab. He's a member of the regiment of the 327th Infantry and 3rd Infantry. He sits on the board of directors for Veterans Media Corporation. He's a producer. He's an actor. He's a host for the Veterans Channel. He's co-founder of the Armed Forces Equestrian Center, and he's a knight in the Order of St. George and the Grand Priory of Canada and the Americas. And I assume you're also in the Illuminati, sir. Welcome to the show. Thank you for talking to me on Paranoid American Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So I just want to get right into it, man. You have a quote on your website that I think will be a good way to kick this off, because I don't fully understand it. And I just want you to explain what this means. No profession, level of education, ideology, or religion is above reproach. There is no profile. The insider threat is closer than you think.
Yeah, spot on. If you look at attacks that have happened over, I just say over time, I'm not going to put a date on it. I don't think it matters all that much. And I'll start with this attack that we're going to talk about here shortly. But when I say no profession, and this attack happened, and your audience will hear this here shortly, but that a fellow American soldier did this. Well, that's a profession. We would not have expected that to have happened. We don't expect that a professor will go to a college or university and shoot fellow employees and students. So the profession is irrelevant when these attacks happen. So it doesn't matter how well or less they're educated. Society would like you to think that they didn't graduate high school, they are more susceptible of committing this crime versus the person with the PhD or with the MBA or with the whatever. ideology, whatever they believe in, whatever the belief is about, is irrelevant. And actually, it is kind of relevant, and to the point where they have leveraged that ideology to commit the attack. Like, that's why they're doing it. That's what they believe in so strongly, that they are attacking those that oppose whatever they believe in. And then same is true with the religion. So we can't look at the religion of those who attacked America on 9/11 and disregard a Catholic or disregard a Christian or disregard any other religion. All of them and everything that I just named is very, very capable of committing an attack, and they are on the inside. So when I say that no professional level of education, ideology, or religion is above reproach, they all can do it and have done it. There is no profile. So we can't look for people who look like the attackers from 9/11 or any other demographic for that matter.
I'm curious, does this just mean that it's not going to be zero, that if anyone's capable of doing this, regardless of religion, race, everything, is that just mean that you can't discount anyone? What about like statistics? Would statistics ever come into play to say, like, it's more likely that a zealot Christian or some other denomination is more likely to than atheism or anything, if you were to just put them all on a plot? Is that completely irrelevant?
Possible, but it's possible by anyone. We don't know what their day is going to be like tomorrow. We don't know how their day is going to end tonight. What's going to trigger them? We don't know. We don't know how long it's been planned, how long it's been plotted. We don't know any of those things until it happens. Then we follow the attack to try to figure out, and we peel back the pieces as they do in the investigation. But if you follow the investigation and peel back the pieces, you will learn that sometimes those things could have been mitigated by virtue of applying these proactive situational awareness strategies we're going to talk about later in the show. So to me, I do not think that there's a specific profile for them. But if you watch several attacks, you will see that same thing. Now, we can say, sometimes they'll say mental health, right? So if we know that people with mental health issues can commit the attack, then why don't we just do something with all people with mental health issues? Problem solved, right? But we don't.
Well, there's probably too many. Not only are there too many variations of mental health, but there's probably too many people with them.
Okay, I hear that. But if we targeted people who look like the attackers or profile the people who look like the attackers from 9/11, we tried that. And then it's a white guy in Wichita, Kansas, that's trying to blow up the airport because he now has allegiance with ISIS. So, oops, go ahead and follow that guy that looks like the attackers of 9/11. And then this guy over here that you least likely suspect is already in allegiance with ISIS and already has explosives to blow up the airport.
So would you, just to clarify, would you say that figuring out if someone has a mental health issue, is that profile worthy? Is that give them a couple extra points on your scorecard for trying to determine, or is that just as worthless as someone's religion or superficial appearance?
Well, I won't use the word worthless. What I'm trying to tell you is that anyone's capable if that's what they want to do. So to watch one demographic is wrong. You need to watch everybody. I rely on everybody. Let them show you. You let them confirm or deny. Either they're going to say something or they're going to do something that looks like it's suspicious. Or, you know, if the husband tells the wife, "I'm going to go to work, and one of these days I'm going to kill all the people at work. I'm going to kill people on my job," and he keeps saying it, and then eventually down the line they do it, and then the wife says afterwards, "Oh, he always said it, but he never did it." So let me get this right: you were waiting for him to actually do it, and then tell us that he was saying it. I'm sorry, ma'am, it's too late. People are already dead. People are already wounded. But when he said it, the first time is when you should alert somebody that he's already said it.
What about gender as an indicator? Because I guess I've been led to believe that it's it's disproportionately men that end up becoming, either terrorists or mass shooters or just violent in general. That it's not 100%, but that it's a vast majority. Does that play into sort of a profile?
Now, obviously, we're watching the attacks and we see that it's males most of the time. But to say that it will never be a female and to just overlook a female doing it, if a female shows the signs and says the things that I'll talk about here in some of these proactive situational awareness strategies, it doesn't matter who's saying it. If they are displaying those things, then they have potential. The gender doesn't matter. If you go to a shooting range, I was at a shooting range in Los Angeles here a few weeks ago. There were plenty of females at that shooting range. It didn't mean that that's what they're planning to do, but to say that they're incapable of picking up a gun and shooting it is dead wrong. There was a mother and daughter.
I mean, that's commendable, the mom bringing the daughter, because I guess if we're talking about zero sum, if we're talking about whether someone is capable or isn't capable, I 100% understand and agree with you. There's not a profile on Earth that you can just say that person will never do this thing or that person will definitely do this thing. I guess I'm more wondering about the ratios. For example, I would also assume, not based on anything informed, but I would assume that people that respect weapons enough to be able to play by the rules of a range safety officer at a shooting range and continuously go there to improve their skills versus someone that maybe just goes out and gets a gun and shoots it in the woods, in an area you're not supposed to, is already kind of treating it more dangerously. That between those two people, that one would be more likely than the other. Not that you can completely dismiss one or the other, but if you were putting money down, that you'd put money on the person that's not being, responsible with their firearm.
I'm not spending my money on the odds. I'm not. I'm telling you that they're all capable based on the reasons that they feel that they need to do the attack that they're trying to commit. I think all those things, if they're viable, and you can follow them if you want to. I think that they are relevant if you are a data person. I think they're irrelevant in terms of that person deciding they want to commit an attack. And if we follow down the data, well, and that's what we get. And we follow the story after the shooting and say, well, we never would have thought. Of course you never would have thought, because you're looking at the data that says they're not likely based on, the probability that it's usually a male and not a female, or it's usually this and not that until it happens. But now we got to throw it out the window. Or we can say, well, a certain percent. Okay, wait for that. And then when it happens up, the percentage just went up.
Yeah, they get to alter that.
Ourselves. I don't think we get better at overall security by trying to predict, what the gender is going to be and all those types of things. The next school shootings are going to be a male or female. We're going to wait to find out. And then what difference does that really make? Should we be trying to prevent the school shooting from happening in the first place, or trying to figure out the gender, or if they have mental health issues or not?
Well, it sounds like and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like so far the only valuable predictor would be someone verbalizing their intent to do something like this, or perhaps writing it down, or some other way of explicitly stating that they're going to do something that would be bad. Is that one of the best indicators? Are there other ones that, would be able to fit into a profile?
You know what? Their actions. If I wear a T-shirt, the 15-year-old at school is saying I'm born to kill, what does that mean? Is it from a movie? Is it? What do you think?
I would think it would be extremely cool. Yeah.
You go to school, if you have children, you go to school, and one of the fellow students is wearing a shirt like that. What's your first thoughts? Are they going to come to shoot up the school, or what's the parents doing? You have an opinion, right? But if that is what it starts out to be, and they wear a trench coat to school every day. So we normally see a trench coat when it's raining. But this is in Santa Fe, Texas, where it's hot, where it's hot like the majority of the time, and not raining. But they're wearing this trench coat to school every day. I would think that the more senior administrators, I would say, when they see a trench coat worn to school as a theme, the first thought in my mind is Columbine, that they're copycat. Just like most of these the attacks are copycat. So that should be the first thing, because it's not raining, and it ain't gonna rain, and it's 90 degrees. So that behavior of what they're wearing, their attire, begs a question. An administrator should ask a question. And let's see what the answer is going to be. Why do you wear this trench coat to school and it's 95 degrees and it has not rained in 60 days? And let's just hear what it is. Now, I can have my thoughts on why they're doing it, and I just shared them with you, but I want to hear what that person's thoughts are. That's the trench coat. But the shirt, as administrators, you can't allow them to wear that anymore. But I still have to ask, like, why did you wear that to school? What does that mean? Are you really a future killer, or are you a killer now? You said born to kill. I mean, it only means one thing. So certain things beg a question. Now, obviously, got to keep them from wearing a shirt again. But my point is, this attacker is the one who committed the Santa Fe high school attack that killed 10 and wounded 10. To start out wearing a shirt, and most of the time he wore that trench coat.
Oh, so that the Born to Kill shirt is from an actual shooting?
Both of the scenario, both of the things I just described to you is from an actual shooting.
Okay.
10 killed, 10 wounded.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you asked me, were there indicators? Did they write it down, or what I'm telling you in this particular case is it was actions beforehand. Now, maybe they stopped them from wearing a shirt and wear that regular, but they continued to wear that trench coat. My point is, both of those behaviors beg the question. And I don't know what they asked, but the eventuality was 10 dead, 10 wounded.
In your opinion, say banning everyone from wearing a shirt that says Born to Kill, which I believe is also a quote from a Stanley Kubrick Full Metal Jacket. I can see it not being allowed in a school environment. It doesn't add to the environment in any positive way. But wearing a Born to Kill shirt, the administration bans it. Let's say they even take it to an extreme. There's now school clothing that is required, khakis and a button down of some kind. Now no one gets to wear any kind of graphic shirts or messages on their shirt. Does this limit the amount of indicators now that at least the trench coat and the shirt means that he's on the radar? But if he's wearing khakis like everybody else is, now he doesn't even get on the radar. So is there any advantage in letting them express themselves, if for no other reason than to have some kind of authority figure or adult pick them out of a crowd?
Yeah, great question. I think I would say in a school environment, it's their job to mitigate a potential attack. So if wearing that shirt and that trench coat, it could lead to something. I'm not saying the trench coat was from Columbine. I said it begged the question you asked. Let's hear what comes out of their mouth. But the shirt, definitely. Now, do you change the entire dress code of the school, or do you put, do you specify certain things of what you can wear on your shirt? Now, I'm not saying that you come up with every little thing that could be on a shirt, but you could do something in a policy to have them wear certain things. I don't think it had to have, everyone wear khakis and a red shirt, for example. But it is a step toward mitigating something. Now, if everybody's wearing the same thing, as you said, then how do we determine the person is going to do something next? What are they doing? What are they showing you? Well, they will run their mouth. You got to pay attention to that. The Sinai brothers in the Boston Marathon bombing, the younger brother, had said after 9/11 that sometimes those type of acts needed to happen. Long before they committed their attack. And he was younger. But he told fellow friends of his who were the same young age as him. Now, did that mean he was going to participate in the Boston Marathon bombing years later? I don't know. But from a person in America to a person in America after 9/11, and they're being told, even as a young person, that sometimes an act like that, a worst attack in American history, has to happen. That's saying something. So sometimes they will tell you. Now, he didn't say that he was going to commit an attack years later, but to applaud that attack is saying something. But those young people just didn't understand situational awareness. They didn't understand, listen, don't just hear, they go tell somebody else. But after he was caught in the Boston Marathon bombing, then it was revealed what I just told you. That's a little late now.
If I can just put my tinfoil hat on real quick, and then I'll take it right back off. But when you're saying that anyone that would say this kind of event needs to happen, referring to 9/11, tinfoil hat on, I believe there was an official report from Washington prior to 9/11 in which someone high up, I don't want to say exactly who it was because I don't have the quote in front of me, but a documented quote that they were describing Pearl Harbor and saying that this country needs another Pearl Harbor in order to push forward some extra level, basically the Patriot Act before it had a name, before it was passed. And that was how they were describing this, is that in order to get this Patriot Act passed, we'd need something like another Pearl Harbor, which sounds like the same thing as saying sometimes 9/11 has to happen, although with different intents. It's the same quote essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree that it it sounds the same. I would think I didn't hear it and I didn't read it. I would think that it was possible, but someone just talking. But the point was, we need to make some changes, and what is it going to take? But if it's like that, if it's that catastrophic, that will prompt them to do something. Just like we thought the gun control would take a step in a different direction after those little kids at Sandy Hook Elementary School were killed. But it didn't. We thought that was going to be the catalyst. That's the final straw. The other schools, okay, got it, bad. But these little kids in the elementary school, these 5, 6, 7-year-olds, gotta change some with gun control, right? No.
What if, I mean, this is a radical from the complete other side of the spectrum between gun control, but in the 50s and 60s and even into the 70s, there were some schools that had rifle class where they taught children how to use and respect guns so that they weren't these weird abstract machines of death that you only see in movies and video games, therefore have no natural response to them. Is there any chance that helps, or is that the opposite direction?
I would say in the days were probably the opposite direction. But I mean, there are shooting clubs. So those things exist, and some of them exist in schools. You watch the Olympics, well, we got 4 years now, or whatever, it's 3 more years. I mean, you're going to see people that do that, and they are part of clubs. Some schools have that. So, but it's different. And it's not that everyone who has a weapon is going to do something. That's not the case. We have to pay attention to the people that are actually, what they're verbalizing. Like the gentleman I told you that was worked at a railroad in California that said he was going to come to work and kill coworkers until he did.
Is there any acceptable use? For example, most people have got some sort of smart device in their home, whether it's a phone or an Alexa or a Google device or an Apple or something that's constantly recording, so that if you say turn the light on or off or what time is it, it'll just tell you, right? But they could potentially be listening for someone saying, I'm going to go and shoot everyone tomorrow, or I'm going to go and hurt somebody, and to just like flag that and give everyone like a little tally or score sheet. I mean, I realize that is essentially Big Brother to define, right? But this would be one way to, because if you can't rely on someone's wife or friend or family member to report them saying, I'm going to go and kill everyone over and over again, you could at least trust Amazon or Google to report it, right?
Some would tell you that Alexa is recording everything. So yeah, I mean that's I like the thought. I think it's way down the road. Some people aren't. Everyone's not standing in their house. Yeah, that's a good one. It's probably way down the road.
Is that something that you?
I would like to rely more on them telling someone else. So someone else has heard it in this particular case outside of the house.
That seems like it would vastly limit the surface area, the number of people. Because if you feel like you're in a safe zone at home or with people that you've known your entire lives versus you're at the workplace, I guess that would be the low-hanging fruit. Someone that's going to work and they've only worked there for like 18 months and they're starting to drop this kind of talk. Maybe that's an even stronger indicator, right, than something that you're telling your wife when you get home after a rough day.
But the same person who was telling his wife that also had a little black book, not necessarily a manifesto, but and not a hit list per name, but had written in there that he wanted to go to work and kill fellow co-workers. So he had traveled internationally, then to the Philippines, came back, and he was selected, specially selected by customs. And they did an extra check, and they found a book, and they read that. So we got United States Customs reading this, but they did nothing about it. And then the attack happened 4 years later or something like that. But the same thing that he was telling his wife was in this book that they read. So they didn't go to the man's job and tell, the CEO, the bosses, and those people that this guy had been saying this. Didn't tell him that.
I'm curious if you have any thoughts on any aspect. I guess I would say the motivations and intentions, but that might be impossible to know. But on the Vegas shooting, which seemed to have come and gone without a whole lot of thorough reports released, maybe just because of lack of knowledge about it. When that happened, was there anything specific going through your mind and thinking about it now?
Yeah, that's a good one. It was so the proactive situation awareness strategy that I come up with. I watch every attack, every shooting, and if the attack could have been mitigated by applying these proactive strategies, then I am this knowledge that I'm sharing with these specific incidents. I kind of store those things. If the strategies were not used, then I talk about it. So it's not just this shooting over here and that shooting over there. It's if these strategies apply or not apply, right? So in that one, it was hard to apply the strategy. Like there was not enough information of what was known prior. So the only thing I can come up with, and I'm just going to spitball here. So this is truly spitballing because I don't know, because there wasn't enough information put out. And I aligned it with something else that I was involved in. So we're talking about this situational awareness overall, right? So I understand that he had several weapons. So unless they were broken down and put into a suitcase, when he came into the hotel, what were those things in? What were they in gun cases? Which you can actually tell that it looks like one versus a suitcase. That would have been at least a sign that he's bringing them into the hotel. If that was the case, I don't know how he brought them in there, right? So that's one thing. I remember I was traveling from, I forget where I went to, but I had my golf clubs. I landed in Atlanta and I had my hard case for my golf clubs. And the Uber driver picked me up. He said, "What is that? A gun case?" I said, "No, it's golf clubs." Now you could say the Uber driver probably seen one of those things before, or maybe not, or he was that case begged a question. So he asked the question. Now he got an answer, But what he mitigated by my answer was, I don't have guns in his vehicle, if I was telling the truth. But my point is, that case, even though it doesn't look like a gun case because it's tall and pretty round, it begged the question, and he asked a question. So back to the Vegas thing, if rifle cases have been bought in, that should have been at least awareness that this individual is checking in with rifles.
I believe on some of the video.
And that was kind of the thing, because it didn't fit some type of awareness ahead of time. Once you get in the hotel room, no one's in there. You put a little sign on the door, no one can come in for weeks if I want to. Heck, I've done that. And I'll go out, the person clean the room, their carts in the hallway. Give me some towels. I don't need you to come in. Give me coffee. I can stay there for a whole week, 10 days, and they never come in. So they don't know what's in my room. So that one was tough because I didn't know. The thing for me on that one was, what did he have checking in? Was there any dialogue the whole time he was in between him and any staff? So that was a tough one. And that stuck with me. I mean, I always think about that. I was like, dang, I can't find anything.
You've mentioned applying strategy a few different times. I mean, can you break down like the formula that you're talking about when you talk about the strategy?
Yeah, not a strategies, right? So first one is trust no one. So what comes to your mind when I say trust no one? What was your first thought?
Me, I've got a shirt that says "Trust No One," so me. I feel like it's me.
All right, you helped me create that one. So, but when I'm speaking, to any audience, I tell them all these strategies, and that's the first one: trust no one. It follows, after me having told them the story of the insider attack that I was a survivor of, right? But what I want them to think about is how they trust, because I can't do that for them. They're going to do it on their own. But I want them to think about how they do it, because some people will say, well, I'll trust you until you give me a reason not to. Well, I trust this group or whatever until they give me a reason not to. I don't like that one, because when they give you that reason, it could be death. It could be a whole bunch of bad things. By the time they reveal why you shouldn't trust them. And I think that some people that we're around with frequent all those types of things, is it trust that we've given them, or do we have certain expectations of them? Anyway, I want them to evaluate that. I don't know how someone gets mine, because I'm not giving it up. You have to work very, very hard. And the people that I'm close to, that I would say that I will give them something, they get a little bit. There's no one person that gets everything. I'll give you what I think that you can handle, and if you mess that up, it isn't going to affect anything much. I wouldn't call that trust, but you call it whatever you want to. But that's how I do it.
I'd call it military compartmentalization, but you just carry it over into normal life too. It's like, I'll let you get something out of the trunk before I'll let you drive the car down the end of the street.
That's right. You're gonna get a little something that I know you can handle, but if you mess that up somewhere along the way, it ain't gonna affect anything. I'm not gonna give you enough to affect anything. So in the end, I would say I don't sound like I'm trusting anybody. I have expectations. I got burnt. I almost got killed. But the same person who wore the same uniform I did. So I'm not giving up nothing. All right, that's the first one. Next one, observe, listen, and report. I think we need two of these particular things. We need two of them. We need to observe and report, or you need to listen and report. But you see reports in it every single time. So in the report, and observe, listen, report, I was a property building manager for an apartment building in LA, right across the street from UCLA. And I just took over, and I come out this one door, and this light was supposed to come on automatically. It was getting dusk. It was January, pretty close to 5 p.m. And the light should have came on automatically based on, outside illumination. And it didn't. So I made a mental note, And I went inside, got a pen and piece of paper. I said, I might as well check all the lights because I haven't done that. Let me check all the exterior lights. So as I'm writing down on a piece of paper deficiencies, the lights that aren't on that should be on, I say to myself, if someone's watching me right now, they should think this is suspicious behavior. It's casing. So I go back in, come out another door, do the same thing. Then I go in and say, let me check all the interior lights. So when I make an order, I can make one order. I get up to the 5th floor, I hear freeze. Well, I've been around long enough to know when someone's behind you and they say freeze, that they probably have a weapon. They identify themselves as law enforcement, told me to drop what was in my hand. They went to pen, they went to paper, hands behind my back, handcuffed, sitting on the floor. They said, well, you fit the description of someone that was called in. I said, no, I am the description. Because I already told myself, if someone's watching me right now, they should think this is suspicious behavior. I didn't further go down the line and think no one was going to call it in. I had already told myself that. So when they said freezing all the time, I said, well, someone did. I told him immediately, I am the description. Then I went on to tell them I was probably building man and all that. And okay, they understood. Now, they had 5 police officers show up with guns drawn for someone that was called in that the call could not have been more than someone standing outside of a building with a pen and paper. 5 police officers show up with guns drawn. Okay, that's a different story. But someone observed and they reported. There was nothing for them here. They observed what they thought was suspicious behavior and they reported. So I say that everyone needs to report. They see something that looks suspicious, they need to report. There's no sweat off that person's back. I don't know who it was. I didn't ask. I didn't care. In my mind, aside from the police officer, 5 police officers showing up with guns drawn, that person did the right thing in my mind. And I'm the one in handcuffs. Good thing I wasn't, a jumpy person and whatever, and didn't get shot in the back. And also, when they're telling me to do all this, drop this and hands down, I'm telling, I can hear the voices younger than mine. I was like, okay, I don't want there to be no accidents, no itchy fingers. I'm talking to them, telling them this, right? Anyway, in my opinion, someone did the right thing. So next one, know your neighbor. And I don't mean just your next door neighbor. I mean, know your coworker, know students that need to know fellow students. You get to know people as much as you can. Let them, and when you get to know them, they'll talk. Then they start telling you stuff. They tell you, I don't like this student over here. Or I got bullied by this guy did whatever. And after a while, we talked about these kids with mental health issues, some of them. Is it mental health if someone keeps messing with me and I had enough? Oh, now I got the problem? Just because I want to do something about being picked on? In a lot of cases, they may have that issue, but now the envelope has been pushed. Somebody's screwing with them constantly, and they can't take it no more. And they do something about it. Whether it be fellow students, whether it be a teacher, whether it be an administrator, everybody has a limit. Now, how they deal with it, is different. So when they go to school and do whatever, and we find out they've been bullied, they had enough. But where was the administration and all the bullying was going on? And if that person told a fellow student, then to me, it's on that fellow student to have told an administrator or someone else. I never advocate for anyone, student or otherwise, to get in between the potential attacker and who they're trying to attack. But if a fellow student's been told by another student they've been bullied, and then something may come out of their mouth, one of these days I'm gonna fill in the blank. Well, they already told you. What are we waiting on? One of those days. That's when it's gonna happen. Because they already told you. But
what's an appropriate response for that? If someone makes that statement in a school, is it just expulsion? Do they go to a special school where only kids that say that kind of stuff go? Like, what happens to them where you don't turn them into a bigger supervillain by basically isolating them from the rest of society?
Yeah, I think these are all one-on-ones. There's no answer for. I can't answer that for you. I would say, if I was an administrator and a fellow student brought that to me, tell me about a certain student, then I need to bring that person in the office, I want to hear what's going on so I can try to mitigate what's happening to them. Can it be repaired? And now we have to get our counselors involved. We got to get the parents involved. We have to do this whole thing. More importantly, now we got to go to the people that this person is saying is messing with them to make sure that it actually happened or not, and talk to them as well. So it's isolated, but that would be kind of the first steps or something like that. So there's no special you go over to this school for those types of things. They're all kind of isolated incidents, but we have to do something about it. But a lot of times it doesn't get to administrators. But I don't think a lot of times it doesn't get to administrators. I can't say what each and every one of them do. My point is, if that student who's going through that has told another student, or another student has seen it, right, observed it, they need to report it. So they may hear it or they may see it. The next one is listen, don't just hear. So when they are telling them, or it's telling several people, may told them 4 or 5 times, but are they listening or are they just hearing it? And there's a difference. There's a 14-year-old student. 2 students at a Catholic school. One student told the other, don't come to school on this day because I'm going to shoot it up. But the fellow 14-year-old was listening. It didn't sound like he was joking. It didn't matter. He was listening. What he heard was, don't come to school on this day because my fellow student said he's going to shoot it up. He reported it because he was listening, not just hearing. College students in a classroom, sophomore classroom, so around ages of 19 years old. Criminal justice class to get on the subject of guns. Start talking about guns. The adult professors in the room, and a few of them say, well, I have a gun. Another says, I have a gun. Another guy says, I have an AK-47 and it's in the trunk of my car. And they go on talking some more and all that. But one 19-year-old, when he said that, thought that it sounded a matter of fact. Now, this is a college campus. You're not supposed to have guns on the college campus. Everybody knows he has his car there that day. And he just told that room that he has an AK-47 in the trunk of his car, to include the adult. But should have went immediately ding, 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 ding. Follow-up question, is your car here today? Or is your car, where is your car? No, adult didn't do nothing. Fellow 19-year-old was listening, not just hearing. Adult professor and everyone else in that room just heard it. The one who was listening went back and reported it and said, hey, it was in the classroom, this happened. So-and-so said, yeah, the AK-47 is in the trunk of his car. It sounded a matter of fact. I don't know what you're going to do with it, but I'm telling you. So they told me that. So student came back, I walked into his car, got about 100 yards from his car, and he said, I just want you to know before we get to my car, I have an AK-47 in the trunk of my car. Now, no ill will was planted. He purchased the weapon legally, didn't intend to bring it to campus, but the day before, this happened on a Monday, the day before on a Sunday, and coming back to campus, he was supposed to link up with a buddy and take the gun to the buddy's dad's house, who lives in a rural area, and is going to lock it up. And those two will go out there on the weekend, shoot, lock the gun up, do whatever they want to do after that. But they missed link up. So he was forced to keep it in his car. On that day, in criminal justice class, all of a sudden they're talking about weapons. Guess what you do when you know you have one in the trunk of your car? You don't say nothing. That's what you should do. This is the day I keep my damn mouth shut. Something might come out wrong. But no, like I said, you get to know them, they will talk. And he did. And this dude looked like, we were talking about some of this earlier, he looked like Matthew Broderick in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Matthew Broderick don't look like he fly around. He'd be like, oh, just let it live. He ain't going to. He
did kill someone with his car.
Got on his dead going 32-ounce steak, and he'd be like, I want to eat the steak, but don't hurt the fly. You get my point. So, but my point is, overall, in terms of the strategy, someone was listening, not just hearing. Then the next one is gut check. Now we see stuff happen when your gut tells you stuff all the time. I feel it, either based on what you see, based on what you hear, based on what you feel, your gut's telling you something. So we watch these attacks happen, and then in the aftermath, they're being interviewed. I always thought something, we always thought it, and you see it and you heard it, but you didn't do nothing about it. And now we have dead and wounded people. But your gut said it was probable, but you did nothing. Our guts are strong in sense. I'm starting telling people now, perhaps we need a stethoscope in our gut, and then things up in our ears up here. So when it's telling us everything, we can hear it. Instead of we know it and we heard it, but if we have it right in there, then maybe we'll do something about it. And then the last one is just signs. A lot of times these things happen. So how would you know the sign? Well, I just told you all these signs. All of them are signs. The Sinai brothers saying that the acts of 911 should happen is a sign. Major Nadal Hassan, who was the attacker at Fort Hood, Texas, applauded the acts of 911. That was a sign. Years later, he kills people at Fort Hood and wounds other people. That was the sign. And he said it, and people heard it, but they weren't listening and do nothing about it. So the signs are there, trench coat. The signs are there, born to kill shirt. But people aren't paying attention to them. So that's the overall situational awareness. That's the overall strategies. Proactive. None of these things aren't after the attack. They're all before the attack or potential attack.
It's one challenge to get normal civilians to start thinking like this and reporting things when it's not necessarily part of the norm. But what about when it's systematic? Because it sounds like the same criticisms you've got where, oh, you heard this, you got a report, but why didn't you do anything about it? Why didn't you go and mitigate it further? There's been criticism of the FBI for the exact same thing where a tragedy will happen and it'll come out like, well, technically they were in our records and we were watching them, but we didn't expect this to have developed so quickly.
Yeah, you're trying to take me out of my space here. I have no idea why the FBI does what they do. A lot of times I say this about 911. 911 has cost us a security problem in this country, and a huge part of that security problem is money. So I'll go back to the Sinai brothers. The brother who ended up being killed, he had made trips over to, I think, Yemen it was, and he was on the watch list. And they watched him, and they watched him, and they watched him. And then he stopped being suspicious in terms of that activity. Not just watching him go over there, but watching him here in the United States and what he would do after he came back and all this time. They watched him. But then he's not portraying anything, any traits of either training he had over there or anything like that. So they don't have the money, which ends up buying the resources to keep watching him. And as soon as they stop watching him, boom. I say for the attacker, they watch, they blend, they befriend, then boom.
Let me ask you, this probably goes to the source of your trust issues and don't trust anyone, and the title that's right behind you that reads Embedded Enemy, this is a story that you were personally involved in, which is also something you've been trying to develop into a movie. Can you just give me the synopsis of what the Embedded Enemy story is? So,
quickly is just the Embedded Enemy is the unprecedented insider threat attack that happened on March 23rd, 2003 by a fellow American soldier that killed 2 and wounded 13. So in the early morning hours of March 23rd, 2003, we were staged at Camp Pennsylvania in Kuwait. It was called an intermediate staging base, getting ready to cross the border to go into Iraq. on that early morning, which was a Sunday. We were scheduled to cross the border on a Thursday. I was sitting in my tent, and I was in a tent with the commander, the executive officer. We were in the first tent in a row of 5. The next one housed the majors, the next one housed captains, the next one housed senior NCOs. I'm watching Tiger Woods play golf. Our ammo just came that night. I was loading my ammunition into my 9mm ammunition into a magazine and watching Tiger Woods play golf. And the tent flap would move because the wind would blow. And so when that happened the first time, I noticed, okay, wind blew it. Then it happened again. I didn't pay attention to the flap. And then I noticed these sparks right in front of me. And I thought it was some type of grenade. I knew that much, that's sparking before it blows up. Now, I don't know about you and your experience, but I never got so close to a grenade to pull the pin and then watch and see what it does for a long period of time. So when it was sparking, I said, that's some type of grenade. I don't know what it is, but it is a grenade. I'm getting out of here. So as I mentioned, XO slept in our tent as well. He was awake and on the other side of the table, he could see what I saw. The commander, however, had gone to sleep. That was about, 1, a little after 1 in the morning. The commander went to sleep at 10 o'clock that night. First time he went to sleep that early. And so I jump up, go to the back of the tent to wake him up. Tell him, hey, we got a grenade up front. We got to get out of here. And I'm thinking it's a frag grenade. It takes 5 seconds. It's going to blow off. I mean, I don't know how many I wasted going to the back of the tent. Wasn't really counting at that particular time. I just knew at some point it was going to blow. So finally gets up, gets his boots on. I said, I'm counting 3. We're going to run out of tent. Now, we couldn't go out the back of the tent because it's what's called a temper tent. And the back was all kind of roped up and everything, because there was a air conditioner heating unit in the back, so you had to go one way in, one way out. So I counted 3, start running down the aisle. I get out of the tent, and he's not there. I get out of the tent, turn around, I'm calling for him, and I'm using hushed tones, sir, not to silhouette myself from the enemy. And no answer. Then I hear a gunshot, and I hear a yell, and I pull out my pistol to cock it. And remember, I said I was loading my magazines on the table. I had a magazine in my weapon, but it didn't have any rounds in it. And so when you have your magazine and a weapon that doesn't have rounds, you pull the handle to the rear, it just goes instead of so I'm screwed. So I turn around and run to the top, which is about 25 yards behind me, figuring that they would have ammunition and I can get an M4 and nods so I can see. So I go in there asking for those things. People are scurrying around because they heard the gunshot too. I put people in positions in the top to, guard the top, secure the top. And I finally get the ammo and everything. I come back out, head toward my tent to look for the commander and the executive officer, but they're not at the tent. So I go back in the talk and get someone else to go to my tent in the vicinity of my tent to look for them while I look for the enemy. So when I came out, that first time, there was no one else outside. So I feel like I'm out here by myself looking for an enemy that I haven't seen, any signs of. And I'm challenged. Someone says, who's there? Of course, I say, Sergeant Major. They say, Sergeant Major, what's going on? I say, I don't know. I say that Major Romaine's been shot. He said, well, so has Captain Seibert. So now we know 2 people have been shot. Now, by this time, that quickly, that first grenade that came into the tent that I saw spark was an incendiary grenade that starts fires. By the time I went to the top, the frag grenade had been thrown into my tent that blew up. Same thing in the second tent, same thing in the third tent. So a grenade explodes at a 15-degree radius. So if you are below that, you may be okay. You may get down to 8, but if you're above that, pretty hard to survive some of that. You're going to get hit. So after the events in tent 1, the people in tent 2 had begun to stand up. So some of them caught it, pretty good with shrapnel. In the third tent, some of them began to come out. One person was on his way out, realized he didn't have his ammo, went back into the tent to grab that. And then when he started again to come out the tent, the grenade blew up in that tent. He was 17 inches away from the grenade. So now we have catastrophic injuries in two tents, two and three. We have 2 people shot. We are triaging casualties, and we're looking for insurgents at the same time. Somewhere in that process, I had called for reinforcements. And I should say that we're on this camp, and there's 5,000 of us on this camp. About 4,200 or so from 1st Brigade, 101st Airborne Division, and then we have a maintenance battalion that's also from the 101st that was on the camp as well. And I would say this camp's about 10 football fields large, I think arguably larger. It's surrounded by a 12-foot berm with concertina wire on top of that, and then several guard posts, and that was kind of the makeup of the camp. But this attack is only happening in the area of the headquarters. So just picture this, this kind of a perimeter of a circle in the middle of the camp of the headquarters, and then all these other units around us. But the attack is only happening at the headquarters. So no sign of insurgents. I say something had to have changed in this camp. Then I was told that interpreters that came in, a few hours earlier. And I said, well, it has to be them, go find them. So the interpreters are located. They're at gunpoint, guns pointed at their heads, hands behind their back, flex cuff. We get them in a place to interrogate them and learn that they have nothing to do with it. So now our search is back toward the insurgents that we have not ID'd at all. But there's no sign of anything that the insurgents have done this. And then I begin to think, well, if they are that good that they can come in here, create all this devastation, all these casualties, and get out without any sign, like we're going to be in for a fight when we finally cross that border and get into Iraq. Our casualties are moved from the area where they were injured to an aid station that's on the camp. They're triaged there. A helicopter lands, a medevac helicopter lands. Someone loaded on a helicopter. Helicopter takes off for a 1-minute flight that's at the CASH Combat Support Hospital. It's only about a minute away. As soon as that first one takes off, the second one lands. Once it lands, it's loaded. As soon as it's loaded, a huge fireball is in the sky. I mean, everybody kind of stops and looks up because it's just a huge fireball, right? So now we begin to think that we're being attacked from the air and the ground, that was a potential scud that our Patriot battery had intercepted. We learned later on that it was not a scud, that it was a British Tornado fighter jet returning from a mission. So now we have a friendly fire incident, from its attack on the ground. So that helicopter, second medevac helicopter, can't go a 1-minute flight to the CASH. They're told that they have to fly 75 kilometers to another CASH, which arguably cost one of our guys his life. Our commander was in that tent when that frag grenade did come in. That's why he didn't make it out. I think he had ran into something first, then the grenade went off. So he's concussed a little bit. He's in a talk. He said they need to get accountability of personnel. So a call goes out on the radio. We call it a net call. And we learned that one person is missing, and so are grenades and ammunition. So the one person that's missing is a Sergeant Hassan Akbar. So now the search turns to him. He's the number one suspect at this time. Our intel officer had been going around all night, going to different bunkers, walking around with his pistol in his hand. He was checking on people in bunkers, asking who's there, giving them some instruction, moving on to another bunker. Once we learned that it's Akbar, he and I come out of the tent at the same time. I go toward some of our leaders to tell them who we're looking for. Of course, they're in disbelief. And he goes to this bunker that he hadn't gone to all night. So he goes to that bunker, like he had done all night, asks who's there. When he does, the response is Sergeant Akbar. So Akbar didn't know we're looking for him. And then there's another person in the bunker with Akbar, and that person identifies himself. So the major holsters his weapon, walks closer to that bunker and takes Akbar down, and that's how he's captured. So eventually he's flex cuffed and everything. Once he's first captured, I take the time to go back to my tent and get my gear. I hadn't had it on all night. Get those magazines that I had loaded. But on my way inside my tent, I see the piece of brass on the ground that was there from when my XO was shot. And I get inside my tent and I see that our colors are all burnt up. And then I see that the frag grenade that exploded where I slept. So had I been asleep and not watching Tiger Woods play golf, then I wouldn't be talking to you right now. My whole area was blown up. So I was pretty pissed that I would have been dead and this person would have killed me. I mean, I wanted revenge. So I came back out of the tent. I walked over to where they had him apprehended, and I was going to do something. I don't know what it was, but he tried to kill me, so eye for an eye. And as I got closer, then someone else come running up, like, why'd you do this? And they're trying to get to him. So I spent my time holding them back, and they foiled my plan. He was moved to an area away from everyone. And then it was asked, why he did it. And he said, to keep y'all from killing our women and raping our children. So I had to pause for a moment, like, what is our? Who is our? Who is OUR? It didn't register that he was of Muslim religion, and he thought he was saving the Muslim people of Iraq. So the trial happens 2 years later. I say a takeaway for the world is that if this happened to a close-knit brotherhood of the armed forces, they can have any campus, community, organization at any time and anywhere. Domestic terrorism is our new reality. So in the trial, we learned that he kept a diary. So in 1993, he wrote in his diary, I do not like the military. They have too much control over people's lives. I suppose I'm just anti-government. The Muslim should see himself as a Muslim only. His loyalty should be to Islam only. Now, like I told you in my quote, and this kind of helped me develop the quote, I'll add this part, that religion doesn't pull the trigger. People do. So we got two things here. We got religion, we have an ideology. But neither one of them pull the trigger. People do. 1996, he writes, anyone who stands in front of me shall be considered the enemy and dealt with accordingly. 1996, he writes, destroying America was my plan as a child and as a juvenile and in college. My life will not be complete unless America is destroyed. Destroying America is my greatest goal. 1998, he joins the Army. So this was planned all along. February 2003. Remember, this happens in March 2003. I'm not going to do anything as long as I stay here at Fort Campbell. But as soon as I am in Iraq, I'm going to try to kill as many of them as possible. So we would have, like we didn't know, we would have never known because we didn't have his diary. He didn't show any of these things or display any of these things that I'm talking about. At least if he did some of it, it was at a level where no one was paying attention. And would you, unless he said, I'm going to kill you guys when the ammo comes, what else could have been done? Now, it was known he's a loner and all those types of things. So I didn't say, okay, maybe he didn't play in the reindeer games. Like if there's not an organized activity that he has to participate in with the platoon or the squad or the section, and it's football or it's just something over here you can do if you want to, but every time he chose not to, was that a sign that I'm going to kill you when the ammo comes? I think not. But I think it was a sign of something. And that something of not participating ever, to me, begs the question. Like, why? Now, this could be anything. But think about this. We are deployed to go across the border to fight in a war. 90% have never fought in combat. So he could be staying over there because he got a call from home that family member's sick or, not enough money for food. It could be anything. Or I'm just afraid of this war and I'm not sure what to do. My point is the activity of not playing in the reindeer games or ever participating in anything begs a question, just like that raincoat. And
Did you know Akbar personally prior to this incident?
Not really. I'm sure. Now, I had 5,000 people in our command, so to say I knew them all would be lying. So no. I mean, I knew him in passing, but I didn't know him. Now, you should be aware of this. I told you how big that camp is. He was guarding ammo for his unit, which is about 300 meters away from where our headquarters was in the middle. So he was on guard with another soldier. He's a sergeant. Soldier was a subordinate. Told the soldier, go to sleep. I got it for the rest of the shift until the next relief comes. He took that time to open up crates to get out ammo and grenades. Then he took his protective mask, carried out a protective mask, put the grenades into the protective mask, walked 300 meters across the desert to attack the headquarters. Not the 800 plus people that were in tents around him to go attack the headquarters.
So I guess this sounds like a more classic definition of terrorism in that it was motivated, but also it was aimed at having an actual political or militaristic outcome. It was not just like expressing grief or frustration in a way that wasn't contained properly. This was meticulously designed to make the most impact as this one person could, at least being on base, going right after the HQ, right?
Yeah, I agree with the terrorism. I don't think necessarily that the HQ or anything else would necessarily be overly relevant or less in accordance with the fact that destroying America was his plan as a child, as a juvenile, while in college, his life would not be complete unless America is destroyed. Destroying America is his greatest goal. That's the terrorism. Had he committed the attack on the people that was closest to him or the ones that 300 meters away, but I don't think it makes it more terrorism. His statement makes it terrorism. I mean, arguably, bin Laden said he'd like to destroy America too. Just because he ran a terrorist organization doesn't make it more or less of a terrorist. The fact that he wanted to destroy America makes it terrorism. No one person can destroy America, and you can destroy parts. Bin Laden destroyed parts. He didn't destroy all of America. Akbar destroyed parts of America. He just happened to be 1st Brigade, 101st Airborne Division.
In the description of your embedded enemy on your website, you mentioned that the United States military, and I guess America in general, has failed to recognize this as an act of terror, and therefore everyone that was wounded or killed has not been eligible for a Purple Heart. Why? I mean, just to explain, like, why not? How hard is it for someone to just sign a piece of paper that says, yes, this was a terrorist event, now everyone involved gets a Purple Heart? What would prevent them from wanting to just do that? It seems as easy as printing out a piece of paper and signing it.
Yeah, I mean, there is a regulation, and I'm not. Although I stand behind the fact that this is terrorism, and that in and of itself is the enemy of our country. Someone makes those statements. That's why I use bin Laden as an example. He was the enemy of our country long before he did anything, because he said things like that. Now we have to go after bin Laden, who was after bin Laden long before the 9/11 attack. Okay, then now it made it more so. So, terrorism is terrorism when it's terrorism. And that's the act that he committed. So in addition to being an enemy of our country. So there's so many things that happen there that are in the regulation that's clear that the victims deserve the Purple Heart. Now you ask, if it's that simple, why haven't they done it? I don't have the answer as to why. I can tell you this. This is what they're telling me now. That in 2015, the regulation was updated to read that the attacker must have been in communication with a foreign terrorist organization, then that the attack was inspired and motivated by that communication with the foreign terrorist organization. That's the reason they're saying that. My first question to that is this. Okay, that's great for 2015, but it's happened in 2003. So from 2003 to 2000, January 2015, since this change was happening in June or something like that, what about then? Since this thing you have now, you want to make apply to this, what about all those years before that? No answer. Now that statement that I just told you, that update was put in the regulation at that time to specifically accommodate the victims in the attack at Fort Hood in 2009. So when that attack happened in 2009 on U.S. soil by a fellow American soldier for the same ideology, they didn't receive the Purple Heart initially as well. But they knew that that attack was in communication with a foreign terrorist organization. So they put that in the regulation. They knew Akbar was not in communication with a foreign terrorist organization. They even at the time when it happened, and what I'm trying to get them to understand now is Akbar is a lone actor. Anybody can be inspired and motivated by anything. They don't have to talk to him. They don't have to be in communication with him. I can be in complete alignment with any foreign terrorist organization right now if I want to. I don't need to talk to them. I just need to get down with what they get down with. And the same is true with anything else. I don't have to talk to them. It's on everything. So I think it's complete BS that you have to be in communication with them. They won't recognize that Akbar was a lone actor way ahead of his time. Arguably, the attacker of Fort Hood was inspired and motivated by Akbar because he saw Akbar get away with the attack. Get away, I mean, executed. Fellow soldier, my same ideology, kills and wounds fellow soldiers. I can do the same thing. How could he not be inspired and motivated by that act?
What happened to Akbar?
Well, Akbar and Hassan Nadal are roommates someplace, cellmates at the United States disciplinary barracks sitting on death row. They are 2 of 4 that are on death row. Oh, but
for over 20 years now?
Oh, yeah. Here's the point. No one has ever been, stand corrected. The last person executed on death row in the military, 1961.
What, do they just have infinite appeals or what?
No, appeals are exhausted. Akbar's is exhausted. Been exhausted. I want to say 2013-ish, 15 maybe, 2015, I think. Long exhausted, just, I don't have that answer. Not since 1961.
Would Akbar be able to just say, hey, by the way, I had foreign connection leading up to this? Would that immediately grant Purple Hearts for everyone, or do they now have to prove it as well?
To prove it in some way. I think that's irrelevant because you don't have to talk to them. Again, it says that the attacker must be in communication with a foreign terrorist organization. And based on that communication, it is perceived that you're inspired and motivated because of that communication. You don't have to communicate with them. You don't have to communicate with anybody to do anything. To be inspired and motivated by it, you don't have to communicate with them. But they knew that Hassan Nadal was. I think he may have even taken a trip over there somewhere while he was in the military. But Akbar was way ahead of his time. I'm committing this attack for these. I mean, he said why he was doing it. He already said why he was doing it. And they know that, to the point where there's this thing called level 1. Let me get it right. Level 1 mandatory level 1 anti-terrorism training that at least people in the Army have to go through every year. Anti-terrorism training. So what should be an anti-terrorism training? It's spitball.
If you're asking my opinion?
No, just like what should be in there.
Anti-terrorism, well, I guess looking for people that are saying things, the signs that you kind of mentioned before. But anyone that's explicitly saying they're going to do something illegal or horrible would be a great start.
Yeah, and you would think something to mitigate it from happening, all that type of stuff. So let me share a story of something that happened, so you can look for this as a relationship, in relationship to training. So here's the point, and I might not teed it up very well. This attack is in the anti-terrorism training. So Army, if you don't recognize it as terrorism, why is it in your training? Like, why don't you put something in there from Disney World? Why not Snow White? It says relevant, according to you. Snow White, not a terrorist attack. This ain't a terrorist attack. Why is it in your anti-terrorism training if you don't recognize it as a terrorist attack? Ding, 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 you have, because you put it in your anti-terrorism training. So, I mean, so between enemy of our country, terrorists, it's in your level 1 anti-terrorism training, but you're clinging onto, I'm sorry, he didn't call anybody.
Is there a material benefit in addition to the recognition, which is obvious for getting a Purple Heart? But does getting a Purple Heart mean you get extra VA benefits, money, extra privileges? Is there a reason why they're being tight-pursed with their Purple Hearts?
There's no reason. And yes, you get those things that you mentioned, but it has nothing to do with that. That I want to say that's what they're entitled. That they are not withholding the award because of those incentives.
No, there's not like some budget where they're like, we're a little over the Purple Heart budget. We can't just be giving these things out like candy.
No. And if had he not himself said these things that I read to you, then I wouldn't be talking to you about the Purple Heart. I would still say that he's an enemy of our country, but he said those things to destroy America. And I'm going to try to kill as many of them as possible when I get over there. And what else do you need? So I don't know why they are hanging on the Incommunicated Foreign Terrorist Organization. I mean, we're talking about people here. So again, it was changed to be put in there. Man did that. Man can make a change that says you don't have to be in communication with Foreign Terrorist Organization. So a denial has been submitted. A rebuttal has been submitted. And so the fight just continues. And that was denied by the last administration. I'm relying on this administration to turn that around. I spoke at the National Sheriff's Association conference a couple of weeks ago in Fort Lauderdale. And they had the director of the FBI there, as well as the deputy adjutant general. And they did a fireside chat. And they're talking about the communication of sheriff's office and those national agencies, et cetera, and partnering and how they work and all those types of things. And they did do that. And they talked about, drugs crossing the border and all this type of stuff, to the point where they both agree that cartels are terrorists. And I'm scratching my hair out, as you can tell, Like, just like that, now drug dealers are terrorists. But this dude's not. Are you me? So we just sling that thing around any way we want to. But the Department of Defense is saying, well, you got to talk to somebody first. But cartels, terrorists. Now, I know that the fentanyl is bad. I'm not trying to deny that any of that stuff is good or it's bad. I get that. I don't necessarily. I don't disagree with, if you want to call them terrorists. I don't disagree with that. They are inflicting terror on people, with the drug. But if we're gonna sling it around, then let's let it stick where it should stick in this particular case. So I got everybody saying it, but I got nobody doing nothing. So I got to keep on coming shows like this and keep talking about it until something's done. Because it's just and no one has said, looked at me in the eye and said, Bart, they do not deserve the award. No one has fixed their mouth to say that. No one of any rank, any stars.
It sounds like this is getting more caught up on some sort of linguistic legalese, like it's because of this one very specific criteria that we don't want to change. It's not going to go your way. We're not going to declare as terrorist. I mean, devil's advocate for the cartel explanation. I feel like in the legalese way, if you were to mince all the different words together, technically, if it's a Mexican cartel and they're affiliated with La Raza, and La Raza has explicitly stated that they're for the downfall of America as a country, and therefore, if you are in a cartel member that's dealing with La Raza, that it meets all of those criteria, even if you're not actually doing something like throwing a frag grenade in a military headquarters during a war operation, that meets all the criteria and they can check all the boxes. And if there's a chance that the government doesn't check one of those boxes, it feels very much like military is a zero tolerance sort of atmosphere. It's usually if you fall within these regs or you don't fall within these regs, and then if you can like weasel your way out of it. It almost seems just like a normal trait of any sort of government bureaucracy, especially within the military, to kind of like latch onto these things out of a principle. Like the principle is that you didn't check this one box, therefore, I can't move forward. I'm sorry, until this box gets checked.
Not to mention the fact you can change the whole damn box to read something different. Because again, man did that in the first place, right?
Right.
Man just has to do it again. Man just has to make some edits. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I obsess with the whys, and like you said, it's hard to know why would the government not want to give the Purple Heart. It's reminds me of not a similar story, but one that happened around the same time. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with this one. I can give you a little bit of the background on it, but it was Pat Tillman, who I believe fell victim to friendly fire in May 2002. He was a professional football player. I think he played for the Arizona Cardinals, and he ends up saying, like, I want to be an American. I want to fight for my country. So he leaves a lucrative professional football career. He ends up joining Army Special Operations, and then in the middle of basically pure chaos, because the story has come from a million different angles now, but the military didn't actually acknowledge that it was even friendly fire until 2007. So it took them a good 5 years, and only because of there was extreme media coverage. The mother was kind of raked through the coals in the media. She was called all sorts of conspiracy theorists and whatnot, and they eventually turned it over because of that exposure. So I do think that you going on shows like this one, maybe other bigger ones too, that just making people care about this, how much of that is the inspiration for you turning this into a book, turn it into a screenplay, and ultimately a movie? Is that the main driver, is to get that box checked on whatever form is, getting filed away by the military?
Yeah, let me ball up a little bit more of this. I appreciate you mentioning the Pat Tillman story in that regard. Depending on who I'm talking to, so if I'm talking to those people that can make this decision, I end with Pat Tillman as Purple Heart. and they know what happened and that had been revoked. Pat Tillman's Purple Heart. Which takes away nothing of his service. What it says is what you said. You got to have this, absurd amount of media pressure to get someone to do what they should be doing in the first place. So it's unfortunate, but that's what it takes. So that's why I'm here talking about it, and I'll keep on talking about it until they get the award, because they deserve the award. Period. And yes, well, the dramatizing this attack is twofold. I want the world to know what happened, and I think it checks a few boxes, in that theme, if you will, and that the world needs to understand that attacks can come from the inside. This is what happened here. In the end, as I read from the diary, long before he joined the military, it was a plan. Well, he wasn't the last one to do this. Well, it happened again in 2009. That guy joined to do that? I don't know. But one did in 2021, to the point where he was getting war plans and sending them to the enemy in the Middle East, and wanting to deploy with his unit to help them kill fellow soldiers. But he's sending them our warfighting tactics. This is in 2021. It ain't done. But Akbar led the way. So seeing this dramatized shows the world what's in society that's joining the military, and to watch out for it. And when we aren't paying attention to it, this is what it looks like. Not just hearing me talking about it. I didn't even go into injuries. And then you would have to visualize them out. That's why I want to dramatize so people can see that. This is what happens when we aren't protecting inside our own borders. You can keep on going down there in South Texas if you want to, but stop pretending like it ain't in the inside already, because it is. So when I'm saying the inside threat is closer than you think, and we keep running down to Texas, okay, keep running down there. But what are we doing about the inside? Because it keeps happening here. So that's why it needs to be dramatized. And at the same time, if those Purple Hearts aren't awarded, then they're going to see, don't get out of your seat when the movie's over, because you're going to see something on the screen that says the soldiers and airmen killed and wounded in this attack never received the Purple Heart. And if they have received it by that time, you're going to see something on there where it says that they didn't receive it until this date.
Is there something that someone listening now can do? Is it just one of those generic contact your congressman and tell them that you've heard the story? Yep,
contact your congressman. Share this with them. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Buy the book. I'm sure that'll be in the show notes. But that's a call to action. Is these Purple Hearts specifically for this? I want you to know about and read the story that's in the book. If you are responsible for hiring speakers at your organization or whatever, I'd love to come out and share more than what I shared here with your audience.
Let me bring this home a little bit. I got a quick little segment I'm going to play. I'll explain what it's about in just a second.
Hey, conspiracy buffs, I double dare you to take some PCP, the Paranormal Conspiracy Probe. On your marks, get set, and go!
All right, this is called PCP, the Paranormal Conspiracy Probe. You don't actually have to do any real PCP. If you have some, feel free to take it. I won't stop you. I'm physically unable to prevent you from doing that. But this is just going to be me mentioning a general idea, and I want to get your rating from 1 to 10 on how credible you think this is. For example, if I say Bigfoot, where would you rate Bigfoot credibility on a scale from 1 to 10?
5.
Okay, I like that. Leave a little room to be convinced either way. Right. How about false flag operations, say like Operation Northwoods, in which the CIA was planning to stage a civilian tragic event and then blame it on another country to justify invading that country?
Ooh. I'm not as familiar, so I'm going to take a 0 on that one. I mean, I don't want to speak out of context and give numbers, and I don't have all the information.
Okay, that's fair. What about the concept that 9/11 was an inside job?
What's my rating scale again?
1 meaning there's no credibility in that whatsoever. 10 meaning that you believe that. And if the question is 9/11 was an inside job, in other ways speaking, that someone within the government either knew about it and didn't act on purpose or helped plan 9/11 as an event.
Wow. I mean, I've heard some conspiracy things, but I didn't delve into it enough.
Would that be a 5 on the fence?
No, it's not a 5. I based on you saying that the government, not so sure about.
That somebody within the government, in other words, that it was not an act of isolated Middle Easterns in a cave planning against us, that someone within the United States government facilitated or at least knew about it and passively did nothing about it.
Woo!
It'll get easier after this one, I promise.
Get easier after this one. Knew something, or knew that attack was coming? Knew something was coming, or knew that?
Well, I mean, to get into nitty gritty, there's 4 classifications of this thinking, of this 9/11 false flag. There is the government had no idea what was happening and therefore didn't do anything about it. There's that someone within the government knew that it was happening and didn't act out of incompetence. There's that someone within the government knew it was happening and didn't act because it was advantageous to not act. And then there's the most extreme, in which the government knew about it because someone within the government planned and helped facilitate it from the start. So it's sort of like I don't know if this is a Rumsfeld quote, but like there's the unknown unknowns and the known unknowns and the known knowns and the unknown knowns. It's kind of like these 4 different categories.
I'm going to take a 0.
Okay, that's fair enough. What about the idea that humans, let me state it as a statement, and you tell me how much you agree with this 1 to 10, that a human being has stepped foot on the moon in the last 100 years?
Wow, that was a tough one. I'm going to go 8.
Okay. How about the credibility in the footage that was shown of Apollo 11 mission, which is the famous first step, small step for man, one big step for mankind? How credible do you think that specific footage was?
I'm going to go with a 10.
What about, have you ever heard the idea that the Hollywood director Stanley Kubrick was involved with creating a backup of the Apollo moon landings in case something went wrong and they needed to show something on TV?
I don't know if I heard that before. When you say his name, I feel like I have, but I'm going to take a 0 on that.
Ironically, he was the one that did Full Metal Jacket, which is where the Born to Kill statement comes from.
Yeah. I don't have enough information about that, but yeah.
How about ghosts? Like straight up Victorian ghosts in a haunted house floating down the hallway. How much credibility would you give that?
I don't know that it's this thing floating. I think there's something where.
Okay, let me expand it to not be so specific as like a dress and floating, but just a spiritual entity that can be detected or at least have some sort of an impact over our physical world.
I'm gonna go 3-ish.
Okay, I got a few more, and then we'll wrap this up. I'm curious. What is the likelihood that someone could summon a literal demon using, I don't know, you go on Amazon and order a How to Summon Demons for Dummies book, and you just skip to the last chapter and start reading out of it? How likely do you think that that's even a possibility, even someone that knew what they were doing?
I'll give it a 1.
How about dinosaurs? And I mean what I said. Like how much credibility do you give the concept of dinosaurs, as you might know if you go to the National Museum of History and you see the big T-Rex, structure on the wall?
As in, it had
that was real and it wasn't completely fabricated or like some sort of a hoax.
5.
How about dragons? Having ever existed in history?
I'll give it a 1.
All right, I like it, man. Rational down to the very end. I threw a couple heaters at you, and you were able to navigate them, so I do appreciate that.
Yeah, those are good. Those are good. You're gonna make me do some homework here and just to see it. And I think I look at the 911. It's like knowing it's that's a tough one. Here's what I heard, and I'll tell you I heard because I don't live there, so I don't know. I don't know what it looks like or what it would have looked like normal or the day before, and that is ground zero. Having gone there 2 months after the attack, and I didn't want to go. We were there were some of us in town. A color guard team from the 101st Airborne Division to Giant Stadium because the Armed Forces was pinning these awards on should know these names off the top of my head. Well, Garnier and Huffer, the 3 of the original Band of Brothers soldiers. And so I pinned the awards on them at the 50-yard line of Giant Stadium. The Giants were playing the Cowboys. Okay, that's why I was in New York. When we left the next day, the person we had escort from our hotel in New Jersey, police lights escort down to ground zero. So I had to go because we were leaving there and then going to the airport, but I didn't want to go. Anyway, he was telling the story of how there were no cabs that morning. Like all the cab drivers, there was no cabs to this attack on that day. So that thought came into my mind when you said, like somebody knowing. So I had to get away from the government knowing as opposed to someone knowing something. So you think about what you know about New York. Again, never lived there, haven't been there since that time. All know it from TV, you turn on TV and they're showing Manhattan and all you see is cabs everywhere, right? To be no cabs. Yeah. So that's always stuck with me.
If you're open to any explanations or additional context on this, I'd love to, outside of this, love to send you a video, because just like yourself, a gentleman had come on here that was an engineer and an architect, and he represents a group called, I think, 9/11 Architects and Engineers that have all analyzed the entire event and feel very strongly that there's more information that hasn't come out. And he has a long list of just strange anomalies that would make it seem that if you only found 3 of them, it would give enough reason to more closely analyze something. And the list is way more than 3; it's like 30. But that's not what this is about. So I would love to just get your sight on that specifically, because it sounds like it would be a fresh idea to you, and I'd like to know how credible some of that is from someone walking directly into it, because me and pretty much anyone listening to this is most likely have a bias one way or the other, and finding someone that doesn't have a pre-existing bias going in would be fascinating.
All right. I'm watching. What's it called? I mean, it's like the London train attack. So 7/7.
Yep.
And I'm watching that, so I'll finish up the night. I always have the last episode of the night. I might go back and sum up 3 a little bit, and they're trying to ascertain like who may have known something, or did they or not, or and how could they have not seen this coming, et cetera, et cetera. So it'll be interesting to see how it ends.
Well, people can find more about your story. They can find out about book if they want to hire you and have you do a talk, or if they even want to invite you on to their podcast, which I highly recommend because this was a fascinating conversation. They can find you at bartwomack.com, right? Are there any other plugs that you want to give here? Any other events coming up or projects that you're working on?
Yeah. So I'm on LinkedIn. You can follow me there. That would be the best way to kind of contact me as well. You can buy the book from my website or just go straight to Amazon. If you want to book me, either one of those methods work. Coming up, let's see, a couple of weeks, I'm speaking at what's called the School Safety Conference in Pechanga. And then in September, it's an event that's in Norfolk. So I'm excited about the School Safety Conference because, you never know who the audience is going to be. But if you have resource officers there, administrators there, it won't be students, I don't know. But I mean, all of them are, I say, my audience, because I'm going to bring up some part where all of them can play a role in what I'm talking about. And for the most part, they haven't heard it the way that I tell it, and the way that I'm putting out a solution, if you will, with these proactive strategies that everybody can do. The 6-year-old student can leverage these if they know about them. And I tell the audiences that, the guns, you can stay on that because that work still needs to happen. But starting getting to the point where it's Einstein's definition of insanity, doing the same thing, expecting a different result. That's going to be a long road that somebody needs to keep doing. But if we exercise these strategies, we can mitigate some of these attacks. There's no solution-proof method here. I think this one, and I give examples of, again, after watching all these attacks where the thing was there, but no one did something about it, or the thing was there and someone did something about it.
Well, Sergeant Major Womack, I appreciate your 29 years of service, and I appreciate you spending some time with me to tell your fascinating story. Thanks again for coming on. This was a really good experience for me to be able to ask you these questions. And all the links that you mentioned, I'll make sure that they're in description and everything else below. So if anyone wants to hear more about this or read the book and get way more detail, or even just reach out to you, all those links will be down below in the description. So thanks again for coming on. I appreciate it.
Well, and thank you very much for having me. I love the way you have this scripted, and I hope you got into it. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you.
Ready for a cosmic conspiracy about Stanley Kubrick, moon landings, and the CIA? Go visit nasacomic.com.
nasacomic.com, CIA's biggest con. Stanley Kubrick put us on, that's why we're singing this song. I'm nasacomic.com. Go visit nasacomic.com. Go visit nasacomic.com. Yeah, go visit nasacomic.com. Oh, nasacomic.com, CIA's biggest con. Stanley Kubrick put us on, that's why we're singing this song. I'm nasacomic.com. Go visit nasacomic.com. Go visit nasacomic.com. Yeah, go visit nasacomic.com.
Never a Straight Answer is a 40-page comic about Stanley Kubrick directing the Apollo space missions.
Yeah, go visit NASAcomic.com.
This is the perfect read for comic, Kubrick, or conspiracy fans of all ages. For more details, visit nasacomic.com.
Paranoid. Yo. I scribble my life away, driven to write the page. Will it enlighten your brain? Give you the flight, my plane, paper the highs ablaze. Somewhat of an amazing feel when it's real to real. You will engage it. Your favorite, of course, the Lord of an arrangement. I gave you the proper results to hit the pavement. If they get emotional, hey, maybe your language, a game, how they playing it well without Lakers. Evade them, whatever the cost, they are the shapeshift. Snakes get decapitated, met is the apex. Execution of flame you out, nuclear bomb distributed at war, rather gruesome for eyes to see. Max them out, then I light my trees. Blow it off in the face, you're despising me for what though? Calculated and rather cutthroat. Paranoid American must be all the blunt smoke for real. Lord, give me a day away, vacate. They wait around to hate whatever they say. Matters not in the least bit. We get heavy rotate when a beat hits, so thank us, you're welcome. Fuck the niggas for real, you're welcome. They ain't never had a deal, you're welcome. Man, they lacking appeal, you're welcome. Yet they doing it still, you're welcome.